Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to look at the latest on the heat wave that is now coming to an end, but coming to an end in a very explosive fashion with some severe thunderstorms throughout the rest of today and overnight in northern and western areas. Could even just about get into the east at times as well, and pretty much all areas of the United Kingdom over the coming hours does have the energy and does have the risk of seeing these severe thunderstorms. So we'll run through what is going on with the live radar at the moment. We'll have a look at the latest on net weather at the lightning, seeing where the most active thunderstorms are at the moment. We'll have a look at the weather warnings, as we do have extensive yellow warnings issued for pretty much northern areas, but from the looks of the live radar at the moment, you can see there are even some storms breaking out further southwards than that main warning zone. We'll have a look at the top temperatures, as we still do have heatwave conditions in the far east, pretty much the east of the storms through the Midlands at the moment, or the areas of rain through the Midlands at the moment. East of this, we're still seeing widely 30 plus degrees today, could even see a 33 or 34. And then we'll finish the video by looking at the latest from the UKV and the Arome run, looking at the precipitation over the next few hours and with the UKV over the next 5 days to see how these thunderstorms could progress through the next 12 to 24 hours. And of course, we'll have a look at the long range, as of course we are exiting this heat wave in the next couple of days. We've got to see what the middle of September does have in store. Some of the runs today are extremely unsettled, with potentially some big storm systems coming in off the Atlantic. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if you start on the live radar, you can see the extensive shower and storm activity we have at the moment. But you can see to the north of Scotland, just about clipping mainland Scotland now, this is the main cold front that is associated with low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. We've got very hot, humid air further than southwards and eastwards, and cooler Atlantic air to the north of this. What we're seeing is unstable conditions moving into that very hot, humid air, which got a very high amount of cape. We're seeing explosive storms take off. Now, if we do look at the pattern of these storms, you can see that they are breaking out in large quantities, but in fairly scattered fashion. You can see large areas of the southwest at the moment, many areas of the Midlands, northern England, not really seeing anything at all. But then you go out to the northwest or the far northwest, you can see a huge thunderstorm system staying towards Oxford, sort of a decaying area of rain around Birmingham, South Wales, and out into the Irish Sea. Some very large thunderstorms and thunderstorms multi-celled systems breaking out. So what we've got here is where those thunderstorms explode, they get very large in size and can spawn multi-celled thunderstorms. But what we're not seeing is widespread convection taking place, i.e. where the thunderstorms take off, they will take off in huge amounts and in huge severity, but they're not occurring everywhere. We're seeing large gaps, and that's why there is so much uncertainty with this. If the thunderstorms start to break off where you are, then it could be a very lively few hours. But if they don't break out, then you'll probably just experience another very warm or even hot day, especially if you're in the east at the moment. We're expecting, though, Midlands, northern England over the coming hours to have the highest risk. All of this area of rain to the south, where there are some storms, embedded storms breaking out, is an overall area of instability. And that is going to move in and mix with the very high levels of cape we have in the very hot air. And we'll see some explosive storms, or at least more explosive storms, similar to this storm system we're seeing up into the northwest, equivalent sort of pattern to that, breaking out widely here as well through perhaps Yorkshire, northwest England, into the East Midlands, maybe even East Anglia as well. Some of the runs have some severe storms breaking out there. But we can run it back all the way to about 11 o'clock, and you can see storm activity is much reduced, and it really explodes into fashion, especially that storm in the northwest and through parts of Wales and the Irish Sea, Republic of Ireland as well, seeing some big storms. You can see really exploding into action, and we are only 1 p.m. or sort of just after 1 p.m. as I'm recording this. We've still got many hours left of this severe risk, and it is likely to last all the way to around midnight tonight. That is where the warning does subside. But only if we've got big thunderstorms around, we've got very hot conditions. Look at those temperatures, still ridiculously hot to the east of those storms through parts of the Midlands and Oxford area. Still seeing high 20s and even low 30s as of 1 p.m. So it is very hot in these regions still, but it is slowly getting swept away. Of course, that heat is actually fueling the storms. So further westwards, the air mass is still very hot, it's still very muggy, still very humid, but a lot of that energy is going towards that thunderstorm activity. Now, if you look at the live radar, another view of the live radar over on net weather, you can see the storm activity once again, but we're able to put on the lightning. Now, any orange, green or red has been in the last half an hour, and there always is a bit of a delay. So when we're looking for active storms, you're looking for orange and reds and even greens as well, because sometimes it doesn't always get up to date particularly quickly. Now, you can see to the west of London and northwest London, really active storm here into Buckinghamshire. Same out towards the parts of the Midlands. This area of rain not producing any storm activity at the moment or lightning activity, but could do in the coming hours. Same for the area in South Wales, more just generally heavy rain, but could explode into fashion, especially some of these storms and showers appearing on the outflow of this system. And then you can see out in the Irish Sea, very active system, and the same out towards the Republic of Ireland. A couple of these storms look like they were decaying away a little bit, but could see a bit more activity as well. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to see the crosses of the lightning activity. It has a lot of these thunderstorm and shower cells are orange and red in colour. But you can see the storm out towards the northwest that is slowly approaching the northeast is extremely active. Thousands of lightning strikes here, and we could see more cells spread off this over the coming hours. So you can see a lot of lightning activity at the moment. Of course, this is not capturing all the lightning activity. Quite a bit of the lightning gets through the net and doesn't get picked up on detectors. So it's not, as I said, not all the activity, but it does show us where the main thunderstorm risk is at the moment. And as I said, this sort of system in the northwest at the moment, which is particularly severe, could become more widespread. That sort of activity could become more widespread across parts of northern England in the coming hours. But as I said, not only the thunderstorms, but over on net weather, we can have a look at the latest temperatures. Just updating this to try and get some of the 1 p.m. observations. Again, not picking up every single site. For example, yesterday, again, the hottest temperature wasn't on net weather, on a station that was recording on net weather. So we don't have all the stations here, but we get a very good overview. And you can see widely, again, 29 to 30 degrees today as of 1 or midday, 1 p.m. Again, not all 1 p.m. stations have come in. But you can see in Stansted we're up to 31. So there's a real possibility around the 3 or 4 p.m. point, like yesterday, we could get up to 33 or maybe even a localised 34. Now it does depend on shower activity. We don't think the biggest thunderstorm risk is in the east where we are seeing these top temperatures, but there is a risk. And a couple of the runs, especially the Rome run, does have some cells breaking out around the 4 or 5 p.m. point, perhaps starting in London before spreading into East Anglia. So it could reduce those temperatures later, but we could see the peak slightly earlier than that. So we will just have to see for those top temperatures. But another heatwave day, 7 consecutive days now of 30 plus degrees, likely to be cooler tomorrow. Still at the risk of some hot conditions tomorrow, but I do think that will depend on cloud amounts and how quickly and how heavy some thunderstorms could be through this evening. Because, of course, if some areas don't see those thunderstorms this evening and overnight, then those areas will remain warmer, more humid, and have a higher base to build temperatures tomorrow. Even though cooler areas sweeping in, we could still nudge a high 20s or maybe even a localised 30. But we're nowhere near as widespread as today, and today is nowhere near as widespread as yesterday was. If you do, though, have a look at the all-important weather warnings. Now, this is the latest thunderstorm warning issued. In my opinion, this could actually be more widespread. It could be a larger thunderstorm warning, especially we are seeing some storms further southwards at the moment. They aren't as active as storms will be later, but they're still bringing some substantial rain. And you can see it was updated to bring the timing forward as the storms were breaking out earlier than the weather warning was issued. And you can see the warning time has been brought forward as storms have initiated earlier than expected. Could be a sign that activity could be higher than some of the runs are predicting, so we have to keep a very close eye on that. And you see an area of thunderstorms expected to develop over parts of England and Wales on Sunday, then move north and northeast into Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland. So as I said, it's that area across parts of the Midlands and Wales at the moment where there is some lightning activity, but it's fairly limited. That will initiate into larger storms like that system we're seeing in the northwest, which I don't think has been particularly well modelled. Again, it is a thunderstorm, so it's very difficult to model in the first place, but we expect to see more signs and more cells like that. Some large amounts of rainfall are likely, but many places will see modest rainfall amounts. However, embedded intense rainfall may bring very large totals of 30 to 50 millimetres an hour or less, and perhaps 70 millimetres or more in a few hours for some unlucky locations. Frequent lightning and large hail are additional hazards. With that amount of energy, that amount of cape, we could see some big updrafts today. Some very cool cloudscapes, but also some very dangerous conditions. Large hail is a real possibility. Again, I'm no expert on hail. We rarely see the risk of large hail. Most hail we normally see in the UK is in sort of April showers or wintry showers. Sometimes we get a bit of graupool or hail mixed in. We do see hail in thunderstorms in the summer, but it's nowhere near as widespread as we would see elsewhere around the world, simply because we don't have as big thunderstorms. But the risk is there today, so we could see some large hail in places. I do think there is a real argument that from what we're seeing on the live radar at the moment, and what the models have, that an amber warning could have been put in force. But I think the reason why it's not is because the likelihood isn't high enough. We don't have that much. There's not that much strong model consensus for where the thunderstorms will occur, first of all, and how severe they will be, which means basically the impact matrix cannot be updated. There is a possibility later it could be updated locally, but many of you probably know my opinion on issuing sort of nowcast warnings. Pretty pointless when many people will probably be out and about, not checking their phones. And even if they're in the middle of a thunderstorm and an amber warning gets issued, it's not great help. The aid of a thunderstorm warning or any general warning is to help you plan in advance. So no real good it being issued as an event is occurring. But if we do have a look at the models and see what the UKV has in store for the coming hours, you can see the storms initiating through this morning, but it shouldn't be too heavy, as we saw, pushing northwards over the coming hours. And you can see already the UKV not particularly predicting this particularly well. No rain across parts of the West Midlands, not developing that cell up towards the northwest, or those multi-celled systems up to the northwest at all, and having quite a big storm activity in the East Anglia and the London area, which we're not seeing at the moment, but it has got a real possibility of forming. We do have showers just to the west of London, and that could be the early signs of that starting to form. We did see on the net weather lightning radar there was some active thunderstorm cells in the Buckinghamshire area. That could be moving, and that could be what the UKV has got onto here. But elsewhere, UKV not performing particularly well at the moment. Again, if we just run to 1 p.m, you can see thunderstorms are much more severe in the northwest, and activity is much higher through parts of the Midlands and Wales. Definitely got some storms in the Irish Sea, but elsewhere not doing particularly well. And again, that could be associated with that weather warning change that we saw, bringing time forward as storm activity is initiated earlier than expected. Over the coming hours, more thunderstorms. You can see the UKV really does pick it up later this evening across parts of northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. So even more rounds of storms coming later before eventually clearing out into the North Sea. Now, if I actually go back to the weather warnings, just have to update you because there is a warning for Monday morning. It's overnight to 6 a.m. for those thunderstorms through parts of the central belt. But once again, it's from midnight to 6 a.m. So I don't think it should affect too many people that severely. But again, there could be 10 to 20 millimetres in places. High impact, low likelihood. But I think that has been issued just because of what we're seeing on the UKV here, with the risk of some severe thunderstorms through the early hours there. A bit of a band developing perhaps in a few spots, but not really impacting. Well, it's probably pretty much in the graveyard time where we're not seeing much going on. Most people are asleep, so shouldn't impact anyone too heavily, but there is the risk in those areas. Into Monday, though, it's going to be a much fresher day for many areas. A good few thunderstorms could break out once again, but not looking as severe. And you can see the main cold front is sweeping in, so still hot and humid ahead of it. Still could see mid to high 20s, maybe an isolated 30, but generally much cooler than the past week has been. Eventually, that weather front will sweep through on Tuesday, giving quite a miserable day in places. Again, could be some heavy thundery showers embedded in that southeast corner, but mostly cloud and lighter rain through Tuesday. For into Wednesday, we're into a westerly flow, much fresher conditions, but also quite a lot more rain pushing in with very active weather front through early hours of Thursday there, giving some very heavy rain, as we could see a barrage of low pressure coming in for the middle part of September. Again, we'll have a look at that in a little bit more detail when we have a look at the GFS GM ECMWF in a minute. But you can see the mixed level Cape through the coming hours extremely high, peaking in northern areas. Again, we're looking at this at 1 p.m. Again, the Cape values won't be too inaccurate from the UKV here, from what we're seeing in reality. And you can see they are picking up as I'm recording this, but they really are peaking around that 4, 5, 6 p.m. point, or even later, and quite widely. So storm activity at the moment is pretty severe in places, but it's only going to increase over the coming hours as this video, when this video is published. Beyond that, Cape isn't as high tomorrow, but still could be in a few spots, lingering energy around, but generally a westerly flow will come back in, and then very limited Cape for the rest of the week as we're a much fresher air mass. You can see that very hot conditions still in the east at the moment, still 17, 18 degree isotherm in, and that's why 30 plus degrees is still widely possible in the east today. Tomorrow still could just nudge it in the southeast corner, 14 or 15 degrees at 850 HPA. Could still get a 30 degree in an isolated spot, but by Tuesday look at that, much fresher air moving in, still a little bit muggy, maybe 9 or 10 degrees at 850 HPA, but maybe low to mid 20s elsewhere. Much cooler as we see westerly flow move in. And again, a warmer sector there, but it's associated with low pressure, so it's going to be cloud and rain. Finally, if we look at the max temperatures, you will see there is massive drop-off over the coming days. Still seeing widely 30 plus degrees in the east today. It's actually a lot more widespread than this is showing. Again, it's going to be most widespread at sort of midday to 2 p.m. as I'm recording this, because those thunderstorms are developing, cloud is developing, so more areas are able to get those hotter temperatures, but really the peak will come at 3 or 4 p.m, 31 or 32, maybe even isolated 33 in the far east. Into tomorrow still could get warm once again, 25 to 27 appearing here, but from the looks of those upper air temperatures still could get a 28, 29, or maybe an isolated 30 somewhere in East Anglia or the southeast of England, towards Kent perhaps, where it's not impacted by thunderstorms today, so still got very dry ground, still very humid air, keeping those temperatures up overnight. So could just about nudge another technically a heat wave day in the southeast or east, but most areas much fresher, and you can see by Tuesday afternoon maybe 23 or 24 in the southeast, but most areas mid to high teens, and that's the same into Wednesday, widely high teens, mid-teens. Thursday, similar conditions, maybe 23, 24 in the east within a warmer air mass, but of course it's associated with westerly winds, so it's going to be fairly unsettled. Now, if you do check out the Arome, which is a more highly regarded model, especially for sort of convexio activity. French model, so unfortunately we can't see Scotland here as it's out of its range. But we can see if we do go to sort of 2 p.m, let's just say, you can see thunderstorm activity really taking off in northern England here, really active. So perhaps modelling this a lot better than the UKV was doing. And you can see the hours following this activity stays extremely high, and then you see the risk of some more further thunderstorms breaking out in some very high levels of Cape. Look at that, 1,500, maybe as high as 2,000 joules per kilogram there. That is really high levels for the UK. So could see some severe thunderstorms breaking out in East Anglia. The UKV got onto that as well. So again, I'm surprised no warnings issued, or the warning has been extended to East Anglia here, as both the UKV and the Arome are producing some real big storm activity there in the evening. And the thunderstorm risk in the northern parts of England and Scotland will slowly decrease through the evening, but could be a line of storms once again through Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Already seen some big storms there over the past few days, but it looks more widespread through this evening here. Again, peaking 4 or 5 p.m. for these storms in East Anglia and Ireland and Northern Ireland, and the storms in the north peaking more around the 2, 3, 4 p.m. point before slowly dissipating away. And you can see into tomorrow there could be some more isolated storms, but look, the Cape is nowhere near as high, 200 joules per kilogram, massively lower than it is today. So there could be a few isolated heavy showers and storms and maybe a convergence zone there through southwest England, but we're not expecting anything as severe as today has been. If we finish though by looking at a longer range, we'll run through this quite quickly as we have concentrated on those thunderstorms in quite a bit of detail. You can see low pressure coming in over the coming days, and it's going to get very unsettled, perhaps towards next weekend into the following week, with some big lows are coming in. And again, these associated with ex-tropical systems. Again, remember, they're not tropical storms or hurricanes, they are ex-tropical systems, so they are losing their tropical characteristics, but still could pump warm air our way. And eventually, right towards the end of the run, could actually see high pressure build in. So it goes very unsettled, but then sees a warmer high pressure system build in. But those low pressures haven't gone away, they've in a different position, so we will have to see. But could be quite a lively second half of September with low pressure coming off the Atlantic. The GM has a similar idea, lots of low pressure coming in by the end of this working week into the weekend. Could see brief high pressure for next weekend there, transient, but a massive low moves in and it goes very unsettled towards day 10 here into the last third of September with some real wild pressure charts here with some really low pressure out of the Atlantic with a very strong flat westerly jet stream. The ECMWF is fairly similar. Again, westerly flow continuing to move in over the coming days, but could see some high pressure at times. But actually, a small low pressure system develops and expands through the next weekend, deepening over the top of us. That could provide some very lively conditions. Deepening area of low pressure is always more dangerous than a weakening area of low pressure, or a low pressure that is rising in pressure. So that could provide some very strong gusty winds, some very heavy rain, maybe even some thunderstorms as it is originating from the south. So again, all three models having some really lively low pressure systems moving in over the coming days and the coming weeks. Finally, if we look at the ensembles, just refresh it briefly as the cyclical arm was just updating as I started recording this. See, hot air is now slowly reducing. Over the coming hours, we're going to be dropping by a couple of degrees every 6 hours or so, down towards average again by around Tuesday or Wednesday. Down towards sort of 6, 7, 8 degrees at 850 HPA, down from the 20 degrees we've been at over the last week. Our pressure temperatures hover around average, but you can see pretty unsettled in the final 10 days here of this run. 2 meter temperatures dropping substantially as well. You know, a good day next week will be sort of low 20s, which is almost 10 degrees cooler than it was this time last week. And finally, if we just have a look at the sea level pressure, you can see generally lower pressure dominating in around a week's time onwards. Again, could be really unsettled in places. Finally, the ECMWF operational ensemble, very similar pattern, dropping substantially over the coming hours and days, and then generally a very unsettled and fairly average in terms of temperatures, middle third of September into perhaps the last 10 days of September as well. So not looking particularly great if you're banking on more drier, hotter weather. It's looking like we're getting a big block now of hot, dry weather that we've had in the last week, and then we're going to get a big block of very unsettled westerly winds coming up in the near future as well. So do savour the warmth and the heat over the next sort of 24 to 48 hours if you are in the east. And if you are in the west, then the unsettled conditions moving at the moment with the thunderstorms and the stronger winds, that is just going to ramp up over the coming days and the coming weeks. This upcoming week doesn't look too bad, but it is just the calm before the storm potentially, as we see those deep lows moving in the longer term that we have just seen on those operational runs. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe in the next 24 hours or so. Lots of thunderstorms around and still plenty of heat. So do stay hydrated, and of course do stay safe in those storms if you are in and around them, as they are pretty severe over the coming hours or so. So as I said, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.